Alright. So, we last left off after you went to Annika's home planet, where she did end up staying with you guys and retained her form as a duplicate of Lieutenant Vogel. And Vogel and both Annika's powers were taken away. During the 6-day journey back to Starbase 21, you come face-to-face encounter with a Borg Cube.
Pants have been darkened?
They're already black.
Good thing it hides it then.
I guess that's where we're picking up. Ratala turns towards Captain Elder, her hands sort of already over the console. Red alert, Captain.
Hold off. Give me a status on their shields and weapons.
Alright, for real quick though, you guys do get an incoming hail from the Borg Cube.
Let me guess. We are the Borg. Resistance is futile. You'll be assimilated.
They normally, I don't know that they have to hail you just to do that.
Yeah, it's true. But
I'll
on
just
the
do that.
audio, through the frequency, but you hear this.
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Your culture will adapt to service us. Resistance is futile.
Red alert, sir.
Give me a status on their shields and weapons. Hold off on the red alert.
Alright, Vogel, give me a Reason plus Science system by the ship's Sensors plus Science, difficulty 2.
Ooh, we have no momentum. Take a threat. Let's see what kind of momentum we could get out of. Just need the ship.
Oh no, the GM has enough for a Borg Cube.
Second one coming in, yeah. No. That's just doomsday scenario right there. Alright,
I mean,
you do gain 1 momentum.
Can I at least raise shields, sir? They could start transporting drones aboard at any moment.
hold on, Lieutenant. Their reaction to us will be stronger the more we seem threatened.
Yes, sir.
Captain, it doesn't appear that they have shields on, and it doesn't appear that they're damaged, but many of their systems are powered down. They seem to be drained from an unknown source.
Recommend we notify command of this Borg's presence. They're very deep into our territory.
Looks like only about 5% of their ship is functional at the moment.
Thank heavens. Ratala sighs as if like the air has just been let out of a balloon. It's very noticeable.
Lieutenant Ratala, have security secure the most important parts of the ship, including the bridge. You can issue Type 3s.
Yes, sir.
And do keep in mind, I do have like 3 free questions.
Ratala will send out orders to essentially post a security team in every critical area of the ship, and issue as many Type 3s as they can.
And Commander, you can formulate a message and fire it off, and we'll update as needed.
Aye, sir.
Are all their drones operational, Lieutenant?
I think that'll be the first question. Are we detecting life signs? And if so, how? Sir, I'm reading only 3,000 Borg drones out of a complement of nearly 130,000. I'm also detecting a different life storm. It seems to have fused itself within the ship and is covering 80% of it. It looks like they're attacking the cube from the inside.
Biological?
I guess we'll ask the question, what kind of life form is it? I cannot get a clear reading on the life forms, but it is biological in nature.
What do you think, Commander?
Well, once we can be sure that it's not going to attack us, we should investigate as much as we can. Might also suggest that we find ETA of nearest reinforcement in case this does activate. Although it is strange, sir, that this is by itself. This is a rather large vessel this deep in. They usually send out scout probes, the circular space frame, rather than the large cube frame.
Could I make a check to see if I think that we could feasibly destroy the cube in its current state? Like, as compared to a fully powered cube?
Vocal still has one question, right? Just trying to keep track.
Right.
No, well, you can do what you were doing. I just wanted to keep track.
Yes, I have one question left.
Okay.
This one would be from the ship sensors.
So, what kind of question are you wanting to know?
Is it possible, Vogel, to see if we can analyze the makeup of some of the Borg drones to see if they're primarily Alpha or Delta Quadrant species, so we can get an idea of the origins of this cube?
I will look in.
It might be beneficial, sir, for us to get a sample of whatever biological that is for study in our labs.
I've heard of people walking through Borg cubes unaccosted. We might look into that option. Can you start pulling me up records on that, Commander?
Aye, sir. I'll look up previous expeditions, see if there's any data that'll help us out.
Captain, I'm picking up species from all over the quadrant and quite a few that we are unfamiliar with.
Then this cube has been in the Alpha Quadrant for some time, or at least it's been here before.
How have we not detected it? Shouldn't...
Space is too fast for us to see everything that comes and goes. If it has avoided major star systems and star bases, it's not inconceivable that we would never see it.
Could I make that check to see if I think this cube can be destroyed in its current state? Particularly by the complement of a galaxy class.
Reason plus security, difficulty 0.
Thanks. Would strategy and tactics or starship recognition or shipboard tactical systems apply to this? Any of those three?
2 of them kind of would. So the starship recognition and then strategy and tactics.
Alright, I'll use strategy and tactics, I guess. Or no, starship recognition. Difficulty 0, you said?
Yes. Difficulty 0.
Okay. Alright. Whoa. Almost double clicked.
Yay, more momentum.
Procedural question. Is the nurse actually, like, what's the nurse's status in relation to being in the crew and whatnot? So we know if we can involve them, other than
So
just
the
out of character talk.
The nurse is in charge of beta shift at the moment.
Okay.
The insert beta ship on the actual ship.
Okay, so we're free in that regard to involve. Okay.
Though I was in beta shift long enough to basically be in charge of it, so, you know, it might balance out.
Technically, Sullivan's been on the Tereshkova since it left space dock.
Okay.
Essentially.
Okay.
The cube would likely still be able to destroy the Tereshkova, so we need to tread carefully. It's possible that we could destroy it, but it's risky.
It's pretty impressive considering only 5% of the ship's still functional.
It is still a Borg Cube. I apologize for speaking out of turn, sir, but I will admit this craft has me quite on edge.
Well, from what I understand, all of the systems are distributed, so even at 5%, it still has active systems in every part of the ship. Whereas if the Tereshkova was down to 5% power, we couldn't use most of the systems on the ship.
True.
Seems to be the case.
Vogel, can you see if that cube has jumped in recently, or is it? Is there any sign of warp trail or folding of space, perhaps?
I will try to scan for its warp trail and see if I can extrapolate where it's been.
Thank you.
It's strange that I suppose the reason they haven't started transporting drones over is because, well, they're all busy trying to keep the ship from being destroyed.
Give me a reason plus science difficulty 1. assist by the ship sensors plus science.
Just need the ship. There we go. 3 more momentum. Commander, it appears that this cube has been in this sector of space for about a week.
About how long, Lieutenant?
1 week, sir.
1 week. 1 week with a cube just sitting here. That's a long time for them to be sitting repairing.
Horrible strategic vulnerability for Starfleet.
We're gonna need to deal with this threat. But with the situation, I don't think we have time to set up and move to a conference room. So start looking into ideas, and I'll turn around and press on the comp. Who's ever in charge in sickbay, come to the bridge, and then I'll cycle channels. Mulgrove. Oh, wait, that's your name on the. Your name on the other game. What's your name in this game?
It's Caleb.
Caleb. Yeah. Chief Caleb, I need you on the bridge.
On my way, sir.
I'll close out the channel.
Sullivan comes up the turbo lift, looking slightly out of breath, and she sees what's on the view screen, and you just hear a very, very quiet, "Oh."
I need solutions on how to destroy the cube if necessary, how to disable it. Science, I need more information on that being that's on the inside of that ship and whether or not what its capabilities are. If we can find out these
sorry.
things, we can formulate a plan.
Oh, Lieutenant Karen Sullivan reporting for duty, sir. She gives a quick salute. I'm in charge of beta shift in sickbay. I can guess what I'm here for, sir.
If we need medical intervention to reverse the effects of assimilation, you will be needed. And you might also need to work with the Lieutenant Vogel over here on a strange life form that might be biological.
Got it, sir. And she sort of steps over to Vogel and gives a quick handshake as a, "Hey, I'm here, thank you," and starts checking over the reading.
And I will be attempting to scan the creature, but have found no new information.
Do you say that?
Tricorder range.
Sorry, Captain, I cannot get any more readings on the life form inside the Borg Cube.
Vogel, is this life form only within the cube? It's not on the external hull or anything?
Stand by, double checking. It appears to have fused itself within the ship, sir. It seems to be covering 80%.
Very strange. I'd assume they must have taken some life form aboard to assimilate it, and then, well, it decided to spread itself across the cube.
Or it could be feeding.
Whoa.
Whoa. Hey, Caleb, you're drilling something.
Oh, sorry.
Seems the assimilation has already begun.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
He's repairing something in engineering, damn it.
Yeah.
Oh.
We might
Caleb,
need...
turn off that comm channel, please.
I'm hesitant to order any kind of investigation, but with Charek's report, we may need a strike team anyways.
With all, sorry, out of character, is the security personnel on the ship like have many of them been in combat before? Are they mostly green?
It's probably a mix, knowing a ship like this.
Yeah, we picked a lot of people up off of the Sarek who have encountered Borg and who have been in combat, but then we also picked up a lot of people from Starbase 1, probably some Academy grads mixed in there, so there's probably a healthy contingent that this is their first time out.
Captain, report. There is just got a call back from Starfleet Command. They've received message calling all available ships. They advise to hold if not being attacked. If we must run, there is a set of coordinates for rendezvous. Entering the coordinates into main computer.
I could try to select a strike team, sir, but are we sure that we want to provoke the Borg? They may be distracted, but the fact that they're distracted may mean that whatever drones are in that ship are ready to kill anything that shows up.
Lieutenant, I can actually illuminate a bit on that. From my readings of previous expeditions aboard Borg Cubes, the provoking action is not boarding them, it's attacking or damaging their ship or making efforts to remove technology from it. If we simply go there and scan, they won't pay much attention to us, especially if they have a larger threat that they're dealing with. The hail is probably some automated system that they do whenever encountering alien vessels.
Perhaps. I suppose that's possible.
Captain, I recommend that we have a security escort go along with a science and biological detail to check out the life form. If nothing else, we should know what it is before we make any further action about destroying the vessel or not, since we have a potential first contact situation with whatever that is.
The survival of the Tereshkova overrides that concern.
At your order, Captain.
Is there a way we know about to disconnect them from the what do you call it? The thing they're plugged into.
The collective?
The alcoves, you mean?
No, the hive mind.
Oh, disconnecting them from the hive.
The collective, I think, is what the general term for that is.
Right, the collective.
According to some of these reports, it looks like it is possible to create some sort of interference. But the minute we do that, they're going to know that we did, and that may draw other cubes here. Mind you, other Borg assets are probably heading here to rescue their ship. Well, not so much rescue it as retrieve their lost material, assuming this thing hasn't been left to scuttle.
So if you spend a momentum, there was a extra thing from the scan that I'll give to Vogel if you spend a momentum, and I'll just give it. And I'll kind of answer one of your questions here.
I think it's been spent.
Let's do it.
Now that is interesting.
It's in it?
Yes, Captain?
Oh, speaking to Lieutenant Vogel.
It would appear that their interplexing beacon is offline.
My memory serves. That means they're disconnected.
They're isolated from the collective.
Then who gave out the
Ma-
message?
They did.
I assume they still have rudimentary communication with local Borg.
If there are any local Borg.
I mean intership communication. I assume they can still function. This unit can still function as a hive mind even without larger connection.
Of course.
Looked it up in main computer, sir. My guess was correct. They aren't able to contact over subspace right now. They could talk to us because we're sitting right in front of them.
They just can't communicate with the collective that's in the Delta Quadrant. They can communicate locally or anything in a certain radius. That's about it.
Like local space, that's about it, yeah.
What if we send a strike team to neutralize local communications and modify the interplexing beacon to issue commands from us? That might neutralize the situation long enough for us to initiate first contact.
Mind control the Borg, essentially?
I'm open to ideas if someone else has got one.
I mean, that's certainly possible. Of course, it's invasive and pretty unethical, but it's possible.
They're Borg.
We are in a state of open hostilities.
Indeed. That aside, they would do far worse things to us.
That doesn't operate as an open invitation for us to do anything to them either. If the nurse has valid concerns, then we can review them.
Ritala shifts uncomfortably in her seat and sort of not growls, but almost lets out this kind of frustrated grunt. It's probably audible, but
Something wrong, Lieutenant Tereshkova?
I realize that some of you will likely disagree with me, but considering what the Borg do and what they are, I don't share the nurse's moral qualms about mind controlling the Borg. We should, well, I think that's an advantage we should use against them.
Though, at this point, is there a mind that we'd essentially be taking over that's anything but the collective?
Likely not.
And would it be possible to permanently sever the connection to the collective with this ship, essentially free everyone on board?
That seems the Lieutenant Vogel may have answers to that, but as far as I know, that is speculation at best.
Are we sure the Borg is the greater threat. There is so much we still don't know about this life form, and just look what they're doing to a Borg ship.
That's my concern as well, sir. The Borg, we know to a certain degree. We have expedition logs to look over. We have a strategy we can use with them. This life form could be doing any number of things and could turn hostile to us or could be friendly to us, but we lack intelligence to make judgment calls on that.
Right now, I think we should assume that the Borg are the more serious threat to us because we understand how serious a threat they are. The unknown entity, while it may be more of a threat to us than the Borg, if it is a threat to us greater than the Borg, it's a nearly insurmountable threat. So I think we should focus on the Borg because we can solve that problem.
Lieutenant Vogel, in the science department, do you have a computers expert or encryptions expert? Xeno computing would be ideal.
Let me look at the support characters. I have no.
The reason I ask, Captain, is if we do have one aboard, we could have that person be the one that interacts with the interplexing beacon to manage it. Say a computing expert and engineer to mechanically get at it, and a security team to keep them stable. Although we do run the risk of the Borg assuming that's a hostile act of attempting to engineer with their interplex, but that's where careful handling may allow them to interact with the technology without being considered hostile. It just takes very careful planning on their end.
We do have Ensign Zyasia Lenara, but that all depends on the willingness of the GM to accept linguistics as a focus.
So my character has a focus in computers and xenobiology.
And you trump whatever we have unless we make a new supporting character.
Yeah.
If I may, so I believe we have a few veterans who've fought Borg before on the ship. I'd recommend them for the security team. I'd offer myself, but, well.
You can run operations from the ship, Lieutenant. Have your second in command organize a team.
Yes.
Transporter size, our transporter capacity -2, and security officers should be 4 officers, I think.
Yeah, and Ratal is essentially. I assume, is Simon still out, or is he good to go now? I can't remember exactly.
Captain, I don't think that we can just hijack the Borg. We would need a drone to do that. And even then, it'll be complex.
That does line up with precedent, sir. That's how the Enterprise D, I believe, did it. Or was able to do it both with Locutus and with the other drone.
Captain, would we be able to possibly make an artificial drone? Not purposely simulate someone, but create something that and trick the collective into thinking it's a drone?
I point towards Lieutenant Vogel. the science officer is going to have more answers for you than I will.
I don't think we could make our own Borg drone. Just their technology is far advanced than ours.
It's wild theory craft at best.
So to achieve your answer, it sounds like we'd need to get hold of one of the Borg without the cube seeing it as a hostile act, or somehow and work on it here, or somehow get over there and work on one of them and reprogram them as an interface.
With this many blockers, right now I'm inclined to send teams over with pattern enhancers so that we can transport torpedoes on board. I don't like the idea of destroying the entity, but I'm not hearing any solutions that would allow us to get on board the ship and disable the threat of drones attacking us.
As a question, how much would we know of Voyager's trip across? Like, would we know any specifics? Because I think at this point they have contact with Starfleet.
So with this time frame, we're in season 7. So I believe the what the hell was it?
The array.
The array, yeah, the thing with the array has happened like 2 seasons ago. So yes, we would have their database.
What about that? What's that thing called where they locked onto the bones? There was a specific term for it that they used.
To the bones?
For transporting.
I don't think the problem is us being able to transport one of them off. The problem is doing it without the Borg knowing we did it. Because if they see us do it, they might just take shots at us anyway.
I'm gonna put this in perspective. If transporting a drone over from the cube to the Tereshkova will be considered a threat.
Yeah.
That's something your characters would kind of know and understand.
Very well. Lieutenant Tucharik, do we have the ordnance to place aboard that cube and destroy it? Do we have access to anything that would be catastrophic to its destruction?
I don't believe so, sir, but I can attempt to scan again, see if I pick anything up that I missed last time. From what I can tell, it's still fully capable of destroying us. I suppose the question's vulnerabilities it has, and as Ratala says that, she's already tapping away at the console and initiating I suppose a scan of the ship. Specifically looking for vulnerabilities this time.
And I think about this time Caleb would walk onto the...
We could cause damage to it, sir, but we don't have enough torpedoes to... Unless we got a 1 in a million shot, we simply would run out of torpedoes before we could destroy it.
What if you put the torpedoes next to areas that could create secondary explosions?
Like reactors and the
So-
like.
This is something your characters will know. So you guys, you're not. So the Borg, any Borg ship has massive amounts of redundant systems. There are power modules all over the cube. So even if you cause the regenerative systems on the Borg cube would start repairing the ship the minute you take out one section of the ship using torpedoes.
There has to be a critical mass where you've destroyed too much of the ship, though.
That's where we run into the biological thing, though. We'd have to beam it into places where that creature is, and we don't know how that's going to interact with it.
And also Borg ships do have secondary shielding inside. So basically it would self-contain any explosions inside. The problem is like I know a ton about the Borg, but my character wouldn't. But I think our best bet is probably still this life form because look what it's doing to the
Maybe the life form has some sort of latent psychic energy that we can communicate with.
Lieutenant Vogel, are the Borg making any progress on the repairs? Or are they do sensors seem to show any sign of them trying to fight this life form?
It's unclear.
I love Borg hull plating. Scans easier every day.
Quite.
Orders, Captain.
Right now, we seem to be incapable of affecting any sort of disadvantage on the Borg. And I'm not entirely inclined to go on a science expedition when there's a ship vastly superior to ours here without any support.
I had an idea that perhaps we could send over beam over a probe near the life form and scan it that way. In that sense, we could have a remote, at least more close range scan of the life form without endangering personnel. Worst case scenario, the Borg steal the thing and they'll have tech that they already know about anyway.
This is the kind of solution I'm looking for. Let's try this first.
Actually,
Right.
this is going to be a control plus engineering. This is by the ship's sensors plus engineering. Difficulty is going to be 4.
This is
So-
probably a lever roll.
Yeah, it's
Sounds like
probably
it.
a level roll.
It's too early to use her determination because we're gonna have to beam people off a Borg Cube sometime today.
Nah, we're never
And
going
onto
over
it.
there. Nah, don't worry about it.
But that's what shuttles are for.
Can we get a shuttle and a Borg Cube?
Oh, just get the crew to jump outside. Everything's fine.
Spacewalking and Borg, not a great combination.
Not really, no. So leva.
I think we
have
spent 3.
3 momentum.
Oh, it's difficulty 4. But she's got technical expertise and assistance by the ship and a focus. So I am inclined to roll with only 4 dice.
And we could give her something else.
She's got determination if she
upgrade her.
needs a reroll too.
Because I think we could probably do a stat. So I don't think we've messed with their stats yet.
And the ship is over here.
Who even cares about the ship? Leva doesn't disappoint.
Well, you need to roll the ship in case there's a complication.
We have all the
Sensor
momentum.
engineering, right?
Yep.
Bang.
Just start spending momentum like crazy at this point.
Do we want to spend technical expertise and see if we can re-roll that one
No.
for a 2?
No, you're at max momentum.
We should have some floating, shouldn't we?
You have 2
We-
Oh
floating.
yeah.
Just 2 floating? Would it be
Yes.
possible to use that 2 extra to create an advantage that we can use the probe as a transporter relay to make it easier to beam to and from the ship from that location wherever we beamed it from, or beamed the probe to?
Or even just that, like, she nailed the coordinates on that one, so just repeating that transport would make it an easier roll.
Well, like it'd be like interfacing with the probe, to use its computer. Basically, like transport enhancers in a way.
Yeah, because the thing's a little sensor box anyway. So half the problem of beaming things down is seeing where you're beaming and making sure it's all there.
All right, I'll allow it. So Vogel, the pro starts relaying information. Give me a reason plus science difficulty 2.
All right, I'll use a moment.
Can the nurse assist? Well, I guess. Will you tell us when the nurse can assist? Because I specifically sent her over there for biological readings on the bee.
I think at this point I can assist at any time. It's just if I say, hey, I'm going to assist this. Not sure if that's true, though.
If the GM allows for
Yeah,
an
I'll allow
assist.
the ship assist. The ship is going to assist with sensor science. I'm not gonna allow the assist because it's at a console, and it's one of those things that.
Oh, you beat me to it.
But I'll send you whatever information I get so we can look at it together.
But I'll allow you guys to collaborate on answers. So, on what questions you want to ask and whatnot. And I'll hand you both the same information.
Cool. And then I'll re-roll that 0. And I did use a momentum to get caution, to turn on caution.
Yeah, you get the momentum back.
We got
so you
3.
only.
So we have 2 floating.
Yeah.
So we have near infinite questions.
Oh.
This is interesting. If
very much so. So is this many organisms or just? But I think I do want that for one of my questions. Both. And then, Nurse Sullivan, I do have 2 more free questions if you could think of anything. I used one of them.
Is there any way we can tell if the microbes have some form of sentience? They're all moving as they all function as one being, and they're able to control parts of the ship. So that means they should have at least some sort of intelligence.
Sorry, did you say control parts of the ship?
I did, in fact, say control parts of the ship.
I guess my suggestion for a third question in that case would be if they're controlling parts of the ship, is there a way that we could, how do I put it, like send a message into the Borg ship, like the parts that are, being interfaced with by this organism to try to communicate?
I
So-
think I just.
So we might be able to words are escaping me today. We might be able to learn what kind of electrical pattern this is, and maybe be able to duplicate it with our probe and see if we
at the
can
very
form
least
some
know
type
it's
of two-way
similar
communication.
We at the very least know it's similar to how our brains work. So it's a very complex thing. I'm guessing we won't. I'm guessing we don't have anything positronic that we could possibly use.
I don't think we have anything positronic on the ship.
There are no androids aboard.
In fact, to our knowledge, is only one working, I think.
Well, we would know of two.
Lore's not. I don't think Lore's alive anymore.
Lieutenant Myth is an android on the kids.
Oh, okay.
I believe Joan can confirm.
Yeah, it's there's an android on the Kismet. She's of a similar Sung type model.
We don't really need a full-on android. We could just figure out if we can figure out some sort of positronic communication. Not a full-on brain, just something that can be close to one.
Yeah, but if they're communicating by passing electrons to each other, it would just be a simple matter of duplicating that response with our current technology. We don't have to build. It's basically just creating an energy field.
Well, couldn't we just
Lieutenant-
build? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Captain.
Can you consult with the engineer on constructing a device? Let me rephrase that. Not on constructing a device, but on implementing a method to do that. I don't know if the probe is able to output energy like that.
It could be GM discretion if we use our two floating momentum to create an advantage that it can. With modifications, of course.
Hence the coordinating with the engineer.
No.
Is there any way we can possibly translate this through the computer's translator subroutines, using the probe as a sort of interface to interact with the organism?
That's a good start, Lieutenant. Can you start to translate what we're already hearing?
It would be. It's how do I put this? It's less. It seems like it's less a language and more the way our brains just work all the time. That would be like saying, "Can you translate the thoughts in someone's head?" I'm certainly sure it's possible to use a computer to do that, but we might need to be directly but in that case, we might need to be directly next to it.
Wait.
If we can measure if the transfer of energy
That's just me thinking that that's probably what's going on.
What, the electron part or the brain part?
It seems to me that they are passing energy between each other to communicate. The process is like our brains, but it doesn't require our brain. It's like imagine an atom, right? And the atom is passing its electrons off to the other one, and they keep doing that. That's what's going on here. It's not so much that they are linked together to form some type of super microbe, but the smaller ones are passing electrons to each other, and that's how they're communicating on a whole.
Can you analyze the passing to see if if there's a pattern to it, if it can be resolved to a language or instructions?
Or if nothing else, a perception. Because it may not be intelligent enough, or sapient enough, I should say, to understand, to communicate in a language. It may be instinctual or
Yes, like instructions, like
We
I've
get
found
good
an
ideas.
energy
Students
source.
Brax has to step out.
yeah.
It's astonishing either way that this organism has managed to so completely, well, almost completely cripple a Borg Cube. That's
Well, I would suppose that the organism must be resistant to destruction in various forms, whether it be cutting implements and energy weapons. So it may be something that's just very hard to harm or exceedingly hard to harm.
That or it just duplicates so randomly. You figure that
That's
these
what I
are
was thinking, too.
microbes. They are probably smaller than Borg nanoprobes, which means that they would not even be affected by it.
or they have some sort of, it has some, I don't know, response, an almost not immune response, since it's not a multicellular organism from what it looks like, but some sort of way to protect against nanoprobes.
But if it's smaller than a nanoprobe, it would pretty much be immune to it because it could just move out of its way.
Suppose, but either way, I guess the solution would be to, well, either way, I mean, we need to find out a way to communicate with this thing, whatever it is.
So I think what we want to do is I think we want to look at this like their process, like they're passing electrons, and look at that process in greater detail.
I might suggest that we look at how they perceive, because then once we know how they perceive, then we can interact with that. Like if they see certain fields of vision, certain electrical fields, then we know how it sees its surroundings.
So just for clarification, the electron passing process is random and chaotic.
Yes. For clarification.
Nurse, do you perceive in the scans, do you see any sort of evolution or rapid evolution of the life form?
Basically, how quick does this microbe reproduce?
Yeah, because of it
seems random and chaotic. I can't really determine
That's
a
for the
pattern in
thought
it.
process.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Not that I can see at the moment. I might be getting. Let me reinterpret the data one more time, and I'll see what I can tell you on that.
Very good.
Because even if that's a medical scan,
well, it's more. I'm hoping for a.
No, nothing currently in terms of rapid evolution.
Okay. Random and chaotic.
Can you do an internal scan on the probe to see if it's attracting any of this attention from the microbe.
A momentum spend.
Why not?
We still got 2 over, right? Or are we down to 1?
You would have technically a total of 5 free questions. So with the overflow.
So is this the 5th?
This is the 4th.
Yeah, this would technically be the 5th.
Okay.
Because I'm counting Sullivan's too.
Oh, okay.
With the float, yeah.
So we're out of float now.
Correct.
Okay.
It does look like the microbes are approaching the probe.
Captain, I might suggest we allow the probe to be
I'm
taken
going.
and scan as it's being taken and get as much as we can.
Wouldn't
I
it-
will, for the simple fact that I want to see whether or not we have to quarantine the ship. The Borg Cube, that is. If they
Sir.
take over the probe, then I'm going to quarantine.
Is there, Lieutenant Vogel? Do you know if there's any way we can contact your friends' people?
Hmm?
Well, to appraise them of the situation, perhaps they could offer us some insight.
I think they
You're
are
6 days away. You're
Oh,
you're
okay.
pretty
I thought
far
we were.
away.
Oh God, I'm sorry. I thought we were still in the system. Whoops.
They also refused to interact with us any further.
Never mind. That was a stupid question. Anyways.
And I have been updating Starfleet Command on what we've been discovering, but we'll know more than they will since we're the first contact with this creature, unless someone luckily happened to run into it elsewhere. But if so, it'd be in our computers as well in the last update.
Has someone performed a computer search to verify we've never crossed this before?
I'll check the computer.
But I think the decision is to let the microbes blow up the probe or eat the and see what happens.
If it works, we may just send them a phaser and let them handle the rest.
I wish we could do that.
Oops. Oh, after all.
This is the least intense standoff I've ever been in with the Borg Cube. It's also the first, but it is definitely the least intensive.
I was about to ask, sir, if you'd been in standoffs with them before.
Gonna spin a momentum for an extra die.
Not a lot of living people have.
That is a fair point.
Captain, the probe just went offline.
Got it back, and I have one floating.
That rules out sending anyone
Plus the
over
ship.
to the ship.
Because we risk them being consumed by it as well.
Even with EVA suits, there's nothing to stop the being from going after the EVA suit.
Aye, sir. computers and science.
What other options do we have?
If we can establish sentience, then we have no options left. Because we can't take any harmful action against it. If we can establish its non-sentience or sapience, whichever one is more relevant here, then we could fumigate.
Do we want to fumigate a Borg Cube?
Wouldn't
We can't allow the
Why not?
Borg Cube free access to this territory.
What
Nurse?
I mean, sir, is that by fumigating, wouldn't we be removing the organism from the Borg Cube? The only reason it seems to not be attacking us is because it's occupied, and we don't have the firepower to destroy it.
We could wait for more ships to arrive, destroy it, and then fumigate. Or we could fumigate and then board the Borg Cube and attack it from the inside.
With all due respect, sir, we don't have the personnel or the equipment for that sort of attack.
We do not at the moment, but we have ships en route.
Yes, sir.
So our current course of action is to stand by until reinforcements gets here.
We need to establish sapience first.
Well, it's possible. Oh, go ahead, sir.
Nurse, you were going to say something.
No, I wasn't. Did something come out of the?
Or I thought you were going to say something. I thought I had heard you speak up, and then someone spoke over you. My bad.
But I will say that it's entirely possible. Can we just, so we were able to beam the probe there over quickly. Why not just beam a sample of the organism?
We don't know what it would do to this ship.
I am very afraid of what it would do to this ship. And I have not had the greatest of luck with our containment systems lately.
Rotala seems to shift a little uncomfortably at that. Do we have any Betazoid crewmen, sir? Empaths, telepaths, anything of that sort? Perhaps we could use someone like that to try to establish sapience or sentience of some kind in this organism.
I'll turn and walk to the cons to my chair and press shipwide communication. This is the captain speaking. If there are any telepathic beings on board that would be willing to communicate with an unknown life form, please notify your department head and have them send you to the bridge. We'll find out, Lieutenant.
Fair enough, sir. This is all so... I don't know whether to be excited or afraid or both or something in between. Perhaps both is the best option.
Captain, I have a report. It does seem that something similar, more or less, was encountered back in 2258. The USS Apollo on Omega Tauri 4. There was a colony that was wiped out, and it seemed to feed on the energy of the reactors. Current status is the planet is quarantined. I've been trying to read the energy readings, compare them to the ones we have in our sensor data. It's similar, but not exact. But then again, given the chaotic nature, it's the closest thing we have to the computer. It's probably why the sensor didn't log it immediately for Lieutenant Vogel. It was outside the range of error. But it seems very close. Same sort of reports, same interaction with energy.
Maybe we can work on a way to neutralize the
Uh-huh.
Borg sphere's or the cube's ability to generate power.
Come again, sir? I'm not sure I quite follow.
With certain energy generation methods, there's a way to, as a nuclear engineer might say, drop the control rods and kill the reaction. If there's some way we can kill the power generation capabilities of the sphere, we might be able to stop the organism from growing if we can establish that it is not sapient.
Could we also achieve the same thing by just letting it finish?
I presume that it came from somewhere other than the cube, so I assume that it can transfer itself. Even
That
after
or
the
the
cube
Borg
dies.
that or the Borg tried to beam it on and it is indeed stuck on.
It would fit with Borg MO to find a new life form and study it for whatever biological advantage it might have.
Hasn't.
We have ships on the way, and if we get to the point where we decide that the best course of action is to wait it out, we can take that course of action. But I think establishing intelligence has to be our first priority, because we can't. There are 1,000 different avenues to deal with this problem that are opened and closed based on its intelligence.
Got an update on the fleet, sir. Looking like 18 hours.
That is too dang long.
It's unfortunate that we don't have an empath or a telepath aboard, at least not that we know of.
The situation doesn't seem to be getting out of hand. I think we can handle 18 hours.
Well, if you want to try to establish sentience, it's a matter of possibly sending multiple probes to examine various parts of the ship, and then we could collate that data, and we could have a research project done that can make some sort of preliminary judgment on its sapience.
Have we tried simply? I realize it might seem entirely blunt or too simple a solution, but have we tried simply sending normal, plain old radio transmissions to this organism? Perhaps a prime number sequence, something that it might be able to recognize if it were thinking?
Well, Lieutenant, that's partially why I wanted to know how it perceived, because the problem is we send a signal to it that it doesn't see or can't see, then it's like snapping your fingers next to someone at someone who's deaf. You can make all the noise you want, but if they can't hear,
But Commander, they do have the ability to take over parts of the ship that could include communications.
which means they might hear our hail.
My thought exactly. If we could pinpoint a part of the ship that they have control of that could receive such a transmission.
Have we tried to hail them?
We have not.
Do we know? Can we map where the organism is inside of the ship? If so, we can definitely see which ones that we can, if it's possible to talk to them through there. Though we have to understand there's a chance we might get intercepted by the other Borg.
They're going to be less interested than we are, I'm sure.
I don't know. It's
Lieutenant-
80%. Go ahead, sir.
Lieutenant Caleb, can you work with Lieutenant Vogel to isolate communications systems and areas that the being has overtaken that correlate?
I'll see what I can do, sir.
You were saying, Joan?
You covered what I was going to point at, sir.
As I'm returning to sit down in my chair, I'll say great minds.
I don't know if I'd be considered great, sir.
I might have to crack open some
So,
mail. This is dumb.
it's gonna be a difficulty 0. Control engineering assisted by the ship's communications plus engineering.
Okay, yeah, someone's gonna have to roll for me.
I got you.
I'll grab the ship.
I don't see a
Eek.
relevant focus.
Probably because I don't have one.
That's probably true. You want to activate your bold? We got 13 threat and 6 momentum.
It's a difficulty 0, and we're at full momentum.
No, I don't
I
see a
only-
need to.
Yeah, I only say that because of rerolls, because of complications.
Yeah,
But
It's the comms. What the complication is, the Borg are in control of it.
I mean,
The Borg hack us.
at the difficulty 0, wouldn't any success mean that we get the momentum we spend back? Or am I?
yes.
You're right.
Not if they miss. I mean, it's a
Right.
difficulty 0. I mean, I think the risk is low.
Yeah, and we're not using a focus, so the chance of generating double momentum for spending 1 is like very, very low.
Right, but we might still just get the momentum
It's-
back.
Guys,
It's also Caleb's call, and
it's the
he's.
comms.
Yes.
Just roll the thing. It's the communications.
I mean,
We're,
yeah.
we're overthinking opening the frequencies.
I mean, excuse me, it's my decision. Thank you very much.
Is that good, Caleb? You're good with a straight roll of a 2 on
Yeah.
a.
I'm good with a straight control engineering because that's a 7.
Yeah, you got 2 successes and a success off of the ship.
Cool.
That's weird.
And you guys were worried.
I
It's a
have
Borg
seen
cube, of
someone
course we're
roll.
worried.
I've seen someone roll like 3 complications with 4 dice. I mean, it's possible to do uber bad.
But that's what makes fun things happen.
I mean, you could beam over.
Captain, there is no response from the cube.
We tried.
Well, I'm out of ideas.
That doesn't mean that they can't hear us, sir. It just means that they're not talking to us.
Can you start cycling through our standard hello, we don't understand your language yet message? You know, standard mathematics and
It's the standard greeting.
Yeah, I'll send them the standard greeting, sir.
And I mean, if that doesn't prove any results, you know, just set the computer to start automatically running through, you know, processes to generate random languages to see if we get something.
Sure thing, sir. Still nothing, sir.
Captain, would we have anybody on board who can mind meld?
We've already exhausted we've already searched for anyone who would be willing to communicate telepathically. Mind meld is far outside what I'm willing to allow because the person would have to become in physical contact. And it's already destroyed a probe and killed somewhere in the neighborhood of 127,000 drones.
Part of my worry is that, sir, is that that organism's has some control over some of the ship's systems. If it eventually figures out how to get itself to move, it becomes a mobile biological threat. Problem is, we don't know how long it's going to take how long the Borg have to hold it back, if they can hold it back.
And from what we've learned from Tactical, our best chance for destroying it is 18 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed, sir. We could damage the cube, but again, there's simply too much mass on that thing to blow it all away.
We need to engage all of our scientific assets on board the ship to try to communicate with it.
What if we tried? Oh, go ahead, sir.
We could attempt. We haven't really diagnosed its interaction with biological entities. We could send over biological material and see what happens. Although that might mean sending over people without any equipment.
Well, then we could probably put some sort of biomatter inside a canister and see what it does with it as a preliminary test.
We could replicate a hunk of meat.
More or less.
Get one of our literal lab rats.
We actually have lab rats here?
You didn't know that?
I will.
You sign off on the inventory.
That is a thing I usually disallow. That's something I'm going to have to talk with the chief medical officer about. But that's discussion for later.
She does love to circumvent the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we do establish that biological beings could go over safely, we know that they couldn't take any equipment with them, which puts them in a dangerous position.
Why wouldn't we be able to bring equipment with us?
I assume that if it tries to destroy, or if it consumes a probe, that a tricorder and a phaser would also, being full of power, be juicy targets.
And we don't exactly have swords on board with us.
But remember, there's still the Borg side, the non-affected areas we could beam to, and then take our time getting to the areas we want to scan, like the edge.
Yeah, I just wonder, once you get in range, if you get in tricorder range, then I assume you're within range of it destroying the tricorder.
Well, sir, I might recommend that in that event we have a running lock on the personnel that scans it, and then beam them once the organism approaches within, say, 2 meters or so, and just beam them before it makes contact.
Let's send over the biological test to the nurse's specifications. And once we get the results on that, we can decide whether or not we want to attempt to send an officer with a more accurate and detailed scanning device over.
Aye, sir. All right, nurse, get your sample ready and hand it off to the transporter room. Not one of the rats, please.
You do realize we might have to destroy this thing. And if it has any sort of intelligence, it certainly rivals that of a lab rat.
And of course, there is always the chance that we're walking straight into a prime directive.
Well, this is first contact. I'm more concerned with the usage of lower life forms in the pursuit of any science. It seems below a Starfleet officer. Hence my objection, sir.
I would normally agree. I just I was fascinated by the line in the sand. It seemed curious.
All life is precious, sir. I only destroy it if it means saving myself and others. Right now, that choice isn't being forced on me. I'd rather put it aside for as long as possible.
Lieutenant Techerik, if you have any questions of a moral nature in the future, you might consult the XO.
It seems so, sir.
I turn around and look at the nurse like the nurse has somewhere to be.
I'm heading out, Captain. She's going to gather. She is not going over by herself.
Oh no! Don't send a person. Send a
Right,
biological
right.
sample first,
Um,
like a guinea pig, but not an actual guinea pig.
she basically finds the equivalent of that goo proto-biological matter, not proto-matter, just the sort of stuff that is sort of kind of alive, but is just a pile of goo.
Basically, what's on the other ship right now.
Yeah, something very similar. Sample acquired, sir.
Lieutenant Reaver, not Lieutenant Reaver. What's the transporter one?
Leva?
Lieutenant Leva, can you transport the material to the location the probe was before?
He acknowledged and transports the container over.
Lieutenant Vogel, constant scans.
If this acts like that organism on the planet, it should be okay.
It avoided life forms. Was that in the report?
I'm going to double check something.
Because I was not aware that you mentioned that before.
Yeah, GM, I'm going to double check that record to see if the colonists were able to escape. Or if they were endangered. That might be a momentum thing, I imagine.
They're floating, so I'll give it to you.
Cool. Hmm. Oh. All right, I just double checked the reports. Some of the colonists did die, but that was due to the extreme weather that was going on. With their various systems depowered, they were exposed to the elements, but it doesn't seem that the organism attacked the colonists directly.
It appears that the microbes are not interacting with the biologic package we sent over at all.
Lieutenant Vogel, would you like to volunteer?
I don't think I have much choice, Cap.
You that was not an order, Lieutenant. You are putting your life in extreme danger. That's why I'm asking you, but you are the most qualified as a science officer. I'm not sure Lieutenant Tereshkova here is entirely qualified for this matter, and I do not believe the XO is necessarily qualified either. And those are my other top choices.
Especially considering that I can't engage in any strenuous movement.
Oh
Also,
yes, then I
am-
don't think Lieutenant Tereshkova, second in command, is necessarily the right person for the job either. Sorry, Lieutenant.
What I meant, sir, was that I'd be practically immobile after too much running, and I also have 0 scientific knowledge. Well, not 0, but you know.
If you have no desire to go, then we can find someone else in the science department.
I am not going to sacrifice my team, Captain. I will.
Very well.
Vogel, if you want, I'll go with you.
Nurse, I need you here in case you need to save her. We need to beam her back over and medical procedures need to be performed.
Aye, sir.
I would send a security officer with the lieutenant, but I'm not sure a phaser would do the lieutenant any good. If you do want a security guard lieutenant, I'll send someone over. I'm just not sure that they're going to be effective.
A blade would likely be more effective than a phaser.
I'll authorize a small security team that you can lead, Vogel, with bladed weapons. That could be effective against the Borg at least.
At this point, Calum will also speak up and go, "Sir, if you need someone who is proficient in hand-to-hand combat, I kind of am as well."
Perhaps we could replicate. No, I doubt we could.
Calum go on the Borg sphere a while back.
Yes, Yes.
Do you want to mention that? Because you're the only person who was there.
Okay, so Calum will go, "Sir, I have experience aboard Borg vessels."
That's true, sir. In his personnel file, the Sarek encountered a Borg vessel during their journeys. They even had an away team aboard.
We had to rescue several people on board the ship.
Before my time, sir.
I don't suppose there's a way we could replicate firearms for the security team.
The only record
purses her lips.
Calum will go, "The only record that I know of weapons being effective is late 20th century weaponry, but not sure how effective they are. Personally.
So firearms could work, is what you're saying?
Yes. I believe in one time Picard met with the Borg, he used a holographic 20th century weapon with the safeties off and killed multiple Borg.
Ritala quirks a brow and then, after a couple moments, just nods in affirmation.
It's the only thing that could possibly be effective that does not generate energy constantly. So, Lieutenant Calum, I'm going to place you in charge of this expedition. You are going to take Lieutenant Vogel, and I will allow you to take 2 more security personnel if you deem it necessary, but I will have to restrict you to whatever non-power generating weapons you feel are necessary for your defense.
If we're speaking about weapons, sir, I know I can't go, but I could help suggest armament or determine what would be the most useful.
You can consult with the lieutenant, but his experience with the Borg is why I'm selecting him, so
of course, sir.
Take what he has to say into account.
I will, sir. I just meant that I have more experience with weaponry.
Scene change, aye. One less momentum.
Lieutenant, get to it.
Aye, sir. And oh boy, Simon's not up and around.
I'll generate someone real quick.
Right,
Okay.
Starfleet shotguns. Let's go. That is what Rital is going to suggest because it's close quarters.
Right. I recommend that we keep the away team small, active transporter lock, and get a medical
Nope.
implant for an easy lockup.
I agree. No more than 4 personnel.
I'm not even thinking that much.
In terms
3?
of
Because the more people we bring, the more threat it is going to.
Fine then. I guess it's just you and me, Vogel.
in terms of weaponry, I would suggest shotguns for firearms. You're in close quarters; they'll likely be the most effective. Slugs,
Yeah,
perhaps. But
If my historical records are correct, I believe a Remington pump action 12 gauge.
that should do. But you could likely find something more effective. But
Remember, we are trying to appear non-threatening. If we go around wielding shotguns, that would appear threatening.
They do come with shoulder straps, Lieutenant. You can just sling them across your back.
most combat shotguns do, yes. The pump models, at least.
You can, EXO, can you look real quick of instances that boardings have taken place and find out how many of those have had weapons present and how many of those resulted in combat with the Borg attacking first?
I can tell you now, sir. Expeditions have had people with full-on energy rifles aboard ship. The key factor of when hostilities started was whether they were already the Borg were already attacking you, or the expedition team opened fire on Borg assets and personnel. So as long as the away team doesn't fire at anybody, they should be fine. And that said, they may if they're at. And that said, I should say that if they're already at a combat stance with us as it is, they'll be shot at no matter what the minute they beam over. So if they're going to beam over, they might as well beam over with enough firepower to defend themselves. They just don't shoot first.
Does that correlate with your experience, Lieutenant?
Yes, sir, that does correlate with my experience. As long as we do not appear or make a threat to the Borg, we should not attack.
All right. You're authorized to take whatever you need.
Aye, sir.
So, what are you taking?
So basically, let me see if I get this right. You want us to get scan?
So, if you're wanting to do the essentially like a small medical implant to monitor your biosignals, as well as be able to ease,
Transporter lock.
yeah. So that's going to be a two momentum cost.
Okay. And then the weapons I see are 2 Remington pump action 12 gauges. Loaded with buckshot.
Can we keep the weapons to this time period, please?
Yeah. What
So-
about there is a kinetic rifle that Starfleet has built. That makes more sense than
I don't.
shotguns.
Well,
So-
if I may.
So essentially projectile weapons are technically outlawed in a way. So
The Starfleet
The
rifle
ship-
too, isn't it? just a single prototype?
There is you have the Type 3 phaser rifle, was what they use.
Maybe we could,
Then
if they're outlawed, maybe we could construct like.
if they're outlawed, then you're gonna be just taking a sword or something like that.
Like just grab one of the Type 3. I'll stick with my Type 1.
What I'm worried about though is if you get close enough, the organism may try to take the energy from the rifle, at which point it was useless.
So the weapons are for the Borg. Like it's going to be dangerous going up to this organism anyway, and no amount of preparation or trying to finagle particle weapons is going to change that.
Well,
the weaponry is for the Borg. The implants are to get us out of there in case we're in danger.
Yeah.
what I was thinking with, like, I know that kinetic weapons are, like, projectile weapons are outlawed, but isn't there, maybe there's some way we could dig up enough.
You're not going to have enough time to create and
Okay.
manufacture the
Fair enough.
projectile weapons that you want. So essentially, you're not going to be able to go over there with them.
Okay, so bladed weapons and phasers basically is what we've got. I doubt the swords will be necessary, but you know.
It is an opportunity cost of 1 to have a knife or a blade of some kind.
It's whatever they want.
Yeah, of course. Ritala's just there to offer advice, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we're overthinking this again. Like,
Okay, so yeah, Caleb will get a short sword.
So 1 momentum.
Okay.
so far we're spending 3.
Yes, so you're down to 2 right now.
And we're going to need some when we're over there, and potentially for this transport. So we can't use all of it on stuff we may or may not.
Right.
I'm shocked that no one has said the phrase batlet yet.
They're not exactly standard issue, and Mulgrove is not trained to use one.
No, I'm not trained to use a batleth.
Neither's Caleb.
Neither is Caleb.
Who did I say?
Volgrove.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the name in Discord, and Discord is what I'm looking at.
Yeah. I know.
Alright, the transport is going to be a control plus engineering difficulty 4, assisted by the ship's sensors plus engineering.
Sensors. Engineering.
I think we should pop her determination. And I can give her mine if we need determination on the way out. That way we could generate a little extra moment.
Oh God, why was there 12? Sounds like a plan.
Just gonna roll the base 2 then.
Two rifles.
Technical expertise to re-roll. I'm gonna re-roll hers because she has a better chance of making it.
Yeah.
That's
There you
5.
go.
Alright, 1 momentum generated. I have...
And just to be clear, we're transporting to the Borg part, right?
There's 2 of her again. Oh no.
Yeah, I believe we are transporting into the Borg maintained area.
Oh no, one of you didn't go. Oh, okay.
Alright. Lieutenant Calum and Vogel step onto the transporter pad. and the two of you find yourself on the right there on the in a random section of the Borg Cube. And you see, as you beam in, you see many empty alcoves.
Are there any Borg at all in this sector, in this section of the ship that we could
Currently-
see? And the first thing I do is pull out the tricorder so that I could see and potentially read on the.
You currently do not see any Borg. At least within the near vicinity of you.
Nothing on the tricorder either.
There are Borg, but they're a little bit a ways away from you.
All right, I am going to use the tricorder to see where the nearest microbe concentration is.
Give me reason plus science, difficulty 1.
Sensor ops work.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
Excellent.
So you're up to 4 momentum total. You managed to find a path towards where the microbe is at. Well, the organism.
I'll look to Caleb and say, it's this way.
Okay. Move slowly and don't make any aggressive moves.
And I think I'll let Caleb take the lead.
As you're walking through each junction, trying to find your way towards the microbe, or at least the nearest section where the microbe is at, you do notice you suddenly come to a halt as the two of you see a group of Borg drones walk right in front of you and head towards the microbe.
I'm gonna look down the hallway that they came from.
You
How
just see a long corridor as it branches out.
How many were there?
4.
And they're heading toward the microbe, right?
Yes.
I'll
turn to Caleb. Well, shall we follow him?
Yeah, I was just checking to make sure the coast was clear that way.
All right. The both of you give me a control plus security. I'm assuming you're gonna sneak behind them.
As long as they're ignoring us, I don't see a reason to actually sneak per se.
Like follow at a distance. Like
Okay.
Yeah.
just keep them on keep them on tricorders. Make sure we're still following them. Making sure that nothing surprises. Like I'm pretty much during this entire time, I don't even have my phaser out. I have my tricorder.
All right.
Just scanning, constantly scanning. Look, if anything pops up on it, like a drone or like a force field or whatever, things we might run.
As you follow the group of drones, they come to a stop, and you see them pulling bulkheads off, and they're literally using their torches and blocking off a section of the corridor. They're literally, from what you can tell, they're making sort of a barricade.
Okay.
And is the microbe in close proximity to them, or is it still a way?
It's still a ways away.
Any other ways to get into that area?
Yeah, I'll try to find a different way that they possibly did not block.
All right. Give me reason plus science, difficulty 1.
I think I'll use a momentum this time.
Three
I'll
momentum gain.
reroll the. I'll reroll the.
Well, you're capped. You do find another path towards a section where you might be able to get to the micro.
I'll just point Caleb in that direction.
And I'll head off in that direction.
Spending 2 threat. As you head towards that corridor or that section, you are confronted by a large group of drones in your path.
Headed towards us or away from us?
They seem to be working on something.
Do we go around or we just walk through them?
As long as we don't make any hostile movements, we should be able to walk right between them.
I'll nod and follow his lead.
Both of you give me fitness plus security, difficulty 1.
Okay.
You better roll this one first. Mine's a 10.
I think mine's a 13. Someone catch that for me?
Someone needs to roll for him on his character sheet.
Yeah, I got it. What am I doing?
Fitness, security. Might as well spend a momentum as well. And check and see if I have a infiltration focus. I don't think
You
I
do.
do. Okay.
Is it valid, GM?
Yeah, I'll allow it.
Did you want to buy any dice?
Yeah, one momentum.
Okay. 3 successes.
Cool.
Nice.
I
Get
do
the
need to
momentum
figure
back.
a way for it to stop showing up as Captain Starx without having to change it.
At the bottom, it's roll as, and then
Yeah,
just click.
yeah,
No,
but I gotta
go to
search
the
every
gear.
time.
Go to my settings and roll 20, and then you can change your display name.
Ah,
What do I do? So difficulty 1, and I have a 10. I'm gonna give you a threat and spend 2 momentum. This is not confident in this roll.
Get a momentum back. The two of you manage just barely to get past the Borg drones. During as you're walking past this large group, you're directly stopped for a moment, Vogel, as one of the drones stops, looks at you, and then walks another direction.
I'm gonna give out a big sigh of relief and keep following Caleb.
You head towards the corridor, and this section is not blocked off, at least not yet. And you do see the microbes. What you see is this large, sort of multicolored in a way, mostly reds and sort of a darker brown hue, but it is a blob that seems to be just kind of growing everywhere.
So yeah, Caleb's gonna be literally like, get a scan now and transmit it to the ship before they get close.
Let's do this thing, and I'll scan, see what I can figure out from this.
Reason plus science, difficulty 2. Actually, sorry, it'd be difficulty 1.
Okay, I'll use a moment. Sensor ops or xenobiology.
I'll take xenobiology. I believe you're capped back at max momentum again, and you have one floating. But what from your scans you had earlier, a lot of it is the same as the probe that you got earlier.
Is there any way I could get more detail on how they feed, how they move, how they pass electrons to each other? All right, I'm assuming that's one question.
The one thing you didn't notice visually, it seems the blob kind of pulsates a little bit, like it's moving.
All right, so it feeds off the radiation. So what happens to the section of the ship after it feeds on it? All right, I believe that is my two questions. I do have a floating momentum if anyone can think of anything. I was posting it. But I think I'll talk to Caleb. Caleb, look, they're feeding off the radiation created by the power sources. They're eating the power directly.
Wow.
And they're not even damaging the ship. It's like they're just interested in the food source.
That is amazing. I mean,
there is one more question I think we have to find out is how did this get aboard the Borg?
True, but best thing I can think is the Borg encountered it, tried to assimilate it, failed.
Is there a working computer console near this section?
If you spend a momentum plus you're floating, I will say yes.
Let's do it.
I will take that as an advantage. Yes, there is a working console nearby.
I am going to attempt to hack into it to see where this life form.
So this is going to be a daring plus engineering difficulty 3.
All right. Take a threat. I will spend 2 momentum. Computers for a focus.
Yes, I will allow computers for a focus.
Huzzah!
All right, you gain 2 momentum. You do have access to the Borg, essentially their mainframe in a way. You got
And
by.
Sorry.
I'm going to try to see where they picked this up, since I'm in. Try to find any information on it.
And once she hacks into the computer, literally starts keeping a lookout for incoming Borg.
So here's the question: do we have an open comm?
I don't think we have an open channel right now.
If not, I'm going to hail the ship. Vogel to Tereshkova.
Tereshkova here.
Captain, it looks like the Borg stopped at Omega Tauri 4, and they picked up the microbe from the surface.
That figures.
They have been slowly multiplying, and they have infested most of the. The Borg are trying desperately to try to stop this microbe from spreading throughout the ship, including trying to build barricades, but it doesn't seem to have any effect. The microbe is eating solely on the power source, and it's doing no other damage to the ship.
From your point of view, do you think we could help it spread faster?
It feeds on power, so if we just transfer power over some way, or
would it be capable? Would we be capable of successfully transporting it to areas that were uninfected, though? Do you think that's possible?
I don't think the Borg have long to go, so it looks like they are getting desperate.
Do you think there's any value in you staying over there for any greater length of time? I have to consult with at least the XO and possibly consult more with you before I make a decision, so I need to know if you can stay on the ship, if you're going to stay on the cube while I make that decision, or if you need to come back.
The Borg have been relatively ignoring us right now. For now, I think we can stay here.
In this situation with everything that's going on, I'm going to ask from positive consent from both of you to stay over there, or I'm going to bring you both back.
I think we could find somewhere to hide, sir.
Okay, I'm going to consult with the XO and we'll come back to you with the plan of action. Tereshkova out.
I guess I'm gonna be switching the mobile here. I gotta go pick up my girlfriend.
I'll turn to Joan. Ready room?
Aye, sir.
I'll hold down the fort, sir.
Commander, I want your opinion on helping the entity win its fight against the Borg, and then towing it back to its native system. As far as from where I'm standing, I think we have the authority to help a entity that is being assaulted by Borg defend itself and even carry on towards victory, so long as we also make an attempt to help that life form sustain itself.
My primary, my concern, sir, is that we have yet to discern how we would otherwise contain it if it starts getting further control over the cube. The Borg are a high threat, and it does look like this life form is the enemy of our enemy, but we have to consider the continuing threat it might have toward us.
It's shown no capability of controlling the ship or its systems.
Hasn't it though? I distinctly remember. Well, the report said it could. I don't remember if it has shown that yet.
Have we actually seen that?
That's the issue. It's a have we seen versus what we know.
No, I mean, do we have any information that suggests that that's possible at all?
So, to the answer to that question is no, you really technically haven't seen any direct evidence that it has, but it does seem when it's essentially near a node, it's able to turn things on and off.
If it was willing to use the ship's systems, it would have been able to neutralize the Borg and their resistance to consume power faster. The ship has internal weapons and internal shielding.
Mm-hmm.
And the Borg are using that against the entity. If the entity wished to accelerate the process and was also capable of controlling parts of the ship or understanding how to control parts of the ship, then I assume it would accelerate that process and remove those barriers. And our reports from that planet you mentioned, did they suggest at all that the entity ever tried to manage or control the technology that it was feeding from?
No, sir. It seemed that it focused on draining power from various sources, and things just happened to shut down from there. So it is quite possible that it will just do the same with the cube. It'll drain all the power that it has until it just drains it dry.
How far away is that system?
Let me see, sir. I'll do a quick check to see distance from where we are to that planet. I assume it's quite a distance away from us. Do you know momentum to spend on that, or our roll? Momentum, yeah. I used to my free question a long time ago. That would be about 70 light years, sir. Actually, that's another thing to consider now that I think about it. Once it starts taking over the cube, if we speed it up, which I'm not suggesting we leave the Borg alone and let them find some way to succeed, but once it takes enough of the cube, we'd have to have some method of continuing to feed it to keep it alive long enough for us to get it to the planet, and maintaining the quarantine around the vessel.
We would have no requirement to sacrifice ourselves to keep it alive, so we won't have to supply it with as much power as it needs, only as much power as we're capable of giving it. And I think we can definitely set a course, set a speed that we can maintain, reduce unnecessary power consumption, and supply power to keep the entity at whatever size it's capable of maintaining with said power.
Possibly even requisitioning supplies if we need it.
We could
because
have
we are
ships.
within.
We'll be traveling probably pretty slow, so we could definitely have ships rendezvous with us. I can't imagine with the fact that we're going to need to generate power that we won't be transferring to the warp coils, that we might be going warp 8, 7, or 8, because we won't be able to dedicate full power to the coils.
I concur, sir.
I'd have to have the engineer come up with more accurate numbers, but off the top of my head, we're not going to be speeding across the sector at this one. So I think we can agree on that course of action. I need to know more on your stance on aiding them in their fight.
The only niggling concern I have is this may be construed under some part of the law as a use of a bioweapon, but then again, I think that, and even as I say it, it feels like a weak argument, just simply because this entity is consuming the power of the ship, and it's already doing what it's been doing. So it doesn't seem like, especially since the Borg beamed it up, so it wasn't like we threw it at them and then hoped everything would go well. They brought this on themselves.
I also feel like there's an intelligence here we've been unable to communicate with. And if we can prove that there is an intelligence, then this would no more be using a biological weapon than given Bajoran supplies to fight Cardassians would make the Bajorans a biological weapon.
That's the rub, though, sir. It's we have yet to determine that, or at least we've yet to determine that in a way that we could prove to a scientific board rather than our own instincts. I agree with you. I feel like there's some extra intelligence there, but that's a feeling and intuition, not a thing I'd be able to argue in front of a symposium or an admiralty board, for that matter. But again, I don't think we're in.
Do you have a strong enough feeling that you would support me making the decision if I accepted the repercussions? Or is this you don't morally feel like you can make a decision yet?
I believe I can advise you. I don't feel a particular moral compunction against it. More.
That's probably best to leave it there. I think this is the course of action we'll take unless you have anything to protest.
At this time, no, sir. If something comes up, I'll be sure to tell you in private, of course. And once I would believe that our informing of Starfleet Command should happen after we are ready to move it underway, once we have control and containment. That way we can, it's easier to argue to our superiors what our movements are. Because at this moment, they're amassing a fleet to take care of this cube. So we have less than 18 hours to get that solved before the fleet probably solves it for us.
Once I feel like the problem is solved, I'll call off the Hounds of War. But probably not until then.
I was thinking the same thing, sir.
I'll stand up from the chair like I'm going to leave, and then I'll turn around and put my hand back on the desk and look at the commander. You don't make a habit out of talking about weapons of mass destruction with captains, do you?
It's come up far too much in my career for me to like it, but that's the time we live in. I've talked with admirals about this sort of subject, and commanders, and lieutenants. Thankfully, not all in the same month.
If this does come to, if this doesn't work out for us, or me in particular, I can't imagine what it's going to be like when someone has to explain that you've had 2 captains removed from using weapons that were deemed unnecessary. That's a pattern.
If that's the case, sir, knowing admirals as I do, that means I would probably get a nice assignment on some faraway starbase where I can't harm anything. Or penal colony, but I kind of don't think the second thing's going to happen. Especially this is something I feel I can stand behind, and you're a captain that listens to my advice rather than hides from it.
It's probably not important anyways. There's just a correlation that I was seeing. Although it does trouble me that there's a suggestion of corruption in there. That does bother me.
How so, sir?
That if you encounter a problem, you have friends that can whisk you away to a safe place, free from a penal colony.
Oh, no. I don't have friends in that regard, sir. I just know that admirals like to hide problems if they can get away with it. Maintaining the dignity of the uniform and all that.
It's still corruption. It's just not that you that does it.
It's the fleet we're in until we have reforms, but that requires me to become an admiral, which I don't see that happening, but I'd like to think I can get there.
Certainly not if you keep having captains dragged off for using illicit weapons.
That would be a damper on my career, I'd suppose.
Well, I better stop talking. I got 2 lieutenants, and one of them has a weapon, and they're on board an enemy vessels. It's probably not the best time to talk. And I'll head out on the bridge.
You're the one that keeps putting off the dinners. Then again, you're putting them off with ship emergencies and duties, so I can't hold that against you.
Ops, hail, away team.
Calum here, sir.
Status?
Everything appears copacetic right now.
Is that... I have no idea what that word means.
Say again, away team?
Was that...
Basically, everything's alright right now, sir.
Oh.
Improper radio telephony jargon. And Ritala just...
We found a nice closet.
A little cramped for my taste.
Well, y'all needed to have some cross-team training, and being cramped in a closet together is probably a good way to do it. I need you to gather all the information you can, and we're going to pull you out. Unless you find information that suggests that your presence on the ship would help us help the entity spread faster.
Sir, may I?
Yes, Lieutenant.
Perhaps we should inform the fleet of our plans so they don't open fire on the Borg vessel the moment they arrive.
We got a lot of time before they arrive.
Yes, sir.
If nothing else, they're a nice contingency plan in case this goes sideways.
Besides, what kind of Starfleet captain comes in shooting first without asking questions?
I can think of one or two.
Especially when the Borg are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't need names. I'd rather not hear. Lieutenant Vogel, do you think you'd be able to help over there, or would you be more useful here?
I'm not an expert on Borg technology, sir. I'm barely able to get data out of their computers as it is.
Don't sell yourself short, Lieutenant. You've done a lot more than some officers.
We're more concerned with transporting sections of the entity, or somehow helping the entity transfer behind barriers. Do you have any knowledge there that would be helpful?
Well, sir, it seems to be following along the path of the power sources, so I don't think the barriers are doing much. Like I said, sir, the Borg are desperate.
In your if we sent you equipment that would allow you to increase power generation along vulnerable channels, do you think that would help accelerate?
You mean put portable power sources enough to draw the microbes to them?
To vulnerable areas.
Well, it certainly was attracted to our probe. I don't see why it wouldn't be attracted to a power source.
Lieutenant Caleb, do you think you could get me an equipment list?
I could see what I could do, sir. Basic things I can think off of the top of my head is a couple of the portable power packs from engineering.
Okay, I'm gonna connect you to engineering. Tell them everything you need, and we'll have Leva send it over.
Aye, sir.
And I'll hit a button to transfer that call to probably Leva.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I didn't think about that before I did that, but knowing that now makes me want to transfer the call more to Leva now even. Nurse.
Yes, Captain?
Could you start trying to surmise the metabolic rate or the power consumption rate of this entity relative to its size? That information is going to become very useful very soon.
Sounds like a plan, Captain. She is going to go over to the science station, plug in the information she knows. Is this an extended task or just something regular?
This would be kind of a just a normal task.
What do you want me rolling? As soon as roll 20 stops. There we go. But yeah, what do you want me rolling? Sorry, I know I said that like 5 times.
Reason medicine difficulty 2.
Reason medicine. Does xenobiology
He just stepped away.
does xenobiology work as a focus?
I would have to assume so.
All right.
Anyways, you can go ahead and roll it, and he can judge off of what the actual rolls are when he comes back.
Oh shit.
You can spend determination to re-roll. Which, it's getting pretty close to the end of the night, so might not be a bad idea.
According to the values I have family is what you make, not what you're given. If you can save someone, do it. Always show respect, and sucker for a pretty face. So,
Oh, you might be able to spend it on mission directive.
I could try cautious medicine, but I don't know if that would help.
No, you have to have already spent. I think your best shot is probably mission directive, or if you can save someone, do it. Because this is the non-violent approach we have towards the entity.
You're right, it is.
But it's also the violent towards the Borg, so
would this
I don't know.
Would this count as a? Would this count as that for our GM?
I think we're missing the GM.
Ah.
What are you trying to do there, Sullivan?
Determine the metabolic rate of the organisms.
Oh, now you can ask. They're back.
Okay.
So would going by mission directives count for what's it called?
Determination spent.
Yes.
For a reroll.
There will be assist from the ship, but for reroll, in this case, yes, the mission directives would probably apply here.
Okay. Well, he has to get a success before the ship assists. But I assume that on this roll, he's probably going to get a success.
It's she.
She, yes.
Do you want me re-rolling?
If you just spend your determination towards the mission directive, that's what you do. But that's up to you.
I will.
And now I'll let you reroll the 2 die. Oh yeah.
That's
Okay, there's
better.
assist from the ship.
Computer's nice. My bad. Hey.
So what I'm reading is that the growth rate is incredibly fast. What would happen would What would happen is it would consume any sort of power source we give it within minutes. That might be what happened to the probe, thinking about it now.
Sorry, I missed some of that.
Growth rate is rapid and would consume any power source within minutes.
From your calculations, is there any way we could generate enough power to sustain it at its current size, or would it have to reduce in mass for us to be able to sustain it?
May I spend momentum to learn that?
Yeah.
Alright, I'd like to spend momentum to ask that question. It would have to be reduced in mass for us to be able to sustain anything, sadly enough.
That is very unfortunate. Do you have any chemical tricks up your sleeve to reduce its metabolic rate and maintain its size? Any sort of induced sleep? I don't really have the right words to describe what I'm thinking because
Putting microbes in a coma. There's something I could try. GM friend, may we try that?
So, I'll give you an answer to a sort of a question, but it'll cost 1 momentum. That's along those lines.
Got it. Take my momentum, Daddy. Anyway. So, it seems there are sections of the Borg Cube where the microbes are dominant and there is no power.
I spelled that wrong. It's dormant. My bad.
Oh. It seems that where the microbes are dormant, where there isn't any power. In theory, what if we were to section them off in a part of the ship and then completely kill power to all parts of it? Just everything, even life support.
I think they're going to do that to themselves. But if it goes dormant once it loses power, that's the solution to our problem. We don't have to supply it power at all.
Yeah.
Actually, that's probably how it sustained itself on the planet. It probably ran out of power on that. Just sat there until someone found it again.
In that sense, this is a really resilient organism, able to survive so long without any sort of energy source, and it just goes dormant. This could help solve some issues. This could help solve some issues where replicators can't be used.
There are decisions that have been made, Nurse, that assume a level of intelligence is present. We cannot take any action that would assume that there is no intelligence present. So any sort of... Right now, if we try to test or use this organism to solve any problem, we're committing slavery by our own admission. So let's hold off on anything like that.
Good idea, sir.
On top of that, if this organism does prove to be sentient, it could be a powerful ally in the fight against the Borg. A friend, even.
One step at a time, everyone.
Of course, sir.
By the way, the away team got transferred to Leva for a shopping list.
Yeah, does someone want to play Leva?
What do you need, Lieutenant?
Not much. Probably about, I think, 10 portable power generators. Probably will have to use a cargo transporter for that. Might as well throw in a couple pattern enhancers as well. I don't know how deep in this cube will be by the time we're done.
Understood, Lieutenant. Do you want me to throw in the warp core while I'm at it?
No, don't throw the warp core on there.
Understood.
If I need anything else, I'll let you know, but that should be enough to get me started at least.
Alright, it's gonna cost you guys 2 momentum for that advantage. And I won't make you do the transporter roll, so.
I'm going to turn to Vogel and go, you might want to back up a little bit. This is going to get even more cramped.
And the requested supplies beam at your location.
I guess first things first, Caleb's going to literally load himself up with as many portable power generators he can carry.
So, what is your goal here with all these power generators?
Basically, make a trail of breadcrumbs to the next major power node.
The overall goal is to kind of lead them to vulnerable areas of the ship to accelerate their takeover.
Alright, so where you're currently at, so let's give me insight plus engineering, difficulty 1.
Oh, okay. That's a 12 roll, I think. Yeah, going ahead, and I think we have at least one momentum left. If we could spend that.
Spending our last momentum, you selfish little... Oh, the mic's still on. Just realized you can't see the chat. I was kidding.
Probably for the best.
Yeah.
Hey.
What do we juggle? Our lives, because they are in the balance.
Someone's gonna have to roll for Caleb, so insight plus engineering.
Yep.
Three dice.
Threat or momentum?
Threat.
He's got bold engineering.
Yeah, you spent one momentum, so...
Oh, I thought I said if it was our last momentum, we're going ahead and spin threat instead. My bad.
Oh, okay.
Especially because he's got bold engineering. Oh, does EPS power systems work here?
Probably not.
No.
Don't shoot yourself in the foot.
You have improv?
Yeah, I
No.
believe I have improvisation.
Must be a different
I'll
character.
take that.
He does not have it.
Oh,
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
that's the other engineer.
yeah.
It was difficulty 1, so you get a momentum.
Oh, cool.
Alright, so you surmise a spacing of the power conduits that would essentially lead the breadcrumbs, what you're thinking, towards the next power junction for the Borg Cube. However, in doing so, to keep leading them to different parts, it's gonna take a lot.
Yeah, I kind of figured. That's why I told Leva I'd get back with her if I needed more.
What if we use these to overload sections of the ship? Doing more with less.
I mean, that does give us 10 basically ticking time bombs, doesn't it? But if we were to do that, we would be perceived as a threat and probably assimilated.
I mean, what's the distance on those bombs possibly going off that we can do it and then...
I didn't mean overload as in blow up, but overload as in like increase the power usage in a section.
Ah,
Kind of like turning on the light, so to speak.
basically increase the distance by overclocking it.
You know, basically
As you're sitting,
rerouting the
so
power
while you guys are
to the...
So as you guys are setting this up and discussing how you can overload, several Borg drones start heading into your position.
Back.
And
Are
they
they
start. Well, you're not. So you're starting to position them, but you've noticed though that they are taking parts of essentially walls and then making barricades.
So the
Oh,
microbes are coming in this section.
snap.
So we don't need to do this one.
Nope.
Let's quietly move to the next section.
And so as you are moving towards the next section, you do notice that you're on the other side.
Oh, so we're locked in?
You're locked in. And the microbes are approaching you.
Turn off the tricorder. Help me kill these power packs. Just turn them off.
Should we call for that emergency beat?
According to the readings, according to the readings, they won't interfere with us per se, but they'll interfere with our technology. I think if we power it off entirely, we'll be good. Hope and pray.
Thoughts and prayers.
Powering them off.
Yes.
Alright, you power them off, and the microbes stop.
Okay. That'll allow us to move a little bit. Can you get a reading on any open corridors?
I turned off the tricorder, remember?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and I don't want to use my comm badge. Let's try and find an area clear of these things for a little bit.
As you walk around the Borg Cube, you do see the blob is kind of close, and keep going down different corridors. You notice that most of them are, all of them you've come to, have been barricaded.
Well, they've been busy. Are we in an area that is at least a couple minutes away from where the microbes are for now?
Give me so we'll make this a fitness plus security, difficulty 1.
Okay, that's a 12 roll. Oh boy. Spend a momentum on that just in case. And I don't think I have any focuses. Somebody got that?
Someone needs a roll for Caleb.
What was it?
Fitness security difficulty 1. 3 dice on 1 momentum.
Who's that echo coming from?
The nurse, I think.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I left my finger on the button.
Oh.
Fitness security.
Yep, I think it's a 12 overall. Or a 13.
12. No. You spending anything other than momentum?
No. Just 1. Because it's only diff 1.
Is there infiltration that works here?
No,
Yeah, I didn't think so.
just for one of you.
It's 3 successes.
Alright, you get 2 momentum. You manage to point out and find a safe area that's away from the microbes, but you do notice that you are kind of blocked in.
Once we reach that area, I'm going to hit my comm badge and go, Caleb to the Tereshkova.
Tereshkova, here.
We were starting to lay down the breadcrumbs and we're blocked off by a barricade. The drones just sealed off the area entirely.
I'm gonna bring you back. I don't think your presence is necessary for the entity to succeed. I think y'all can work from here to help it if need be, but I don't think y'all's presence is necessary.
Understood, sir. See if Leva can get a lock on us. If not, I'll drop some pattern enhancers.
Stand by. And I'll call up Lieutenant Leva. Bridge to transporter room 1.
Go ahead, Bridge.
I got a team in a tight situation, and I need you to get them out quickly and efficiently.
Understood.
Sending you the coordinates. And I'm
Alright,
going to try to sell that as me giving her my determination.
Back.
Alright. This is going to be control plus engineering assisted by the ships. Sensors plus engineering would be difficulty 3, because you're a little advantage there, but I'm going to spend some threat, make it a 4.
Do we want to buy any dice?
Well, I assume you're using the determination for this.
Yeah, but I mean, I was going to use it on a natural success, but we could also use it for the reroll. I'm open to either.
We got 3 momentum on the table.
We could buy 4 dice and then save it for the reroll.
Yeah.
I think we do that. We'll let the ship roll, and we may just use technical expertise, so we may not use that determination at all.
Do do do. Do do do. Do.
Rolling technical expertise on the complication. I don't know why I give her determination.
You believe in her.
I mean,
4
I do.
momentum
She doesn't fail.
gain.
You know, I wonder about only letting her be operations chief, you know? Maybe she deserves more.
I think she's trying to show that she should be the chief engineer.
I tried, but she just did not have the confidence. And you know, there was this other dude who was super sure of himself.
Well, Calum and Lieutenant Vogel appear on in the transporter room on the Tereshkova.
And I literally see Calum with like 6 different power generators slung over his shoulder. Looks at Leva and goes, "Thanks."
She just shakes her head.
I'm gonna do a quick scan and make sure we didn't bring any of these bloody microbes back with.
Oh, I've been planning for half the episode to bring y'all back in quarantine, and it slipped my mind. Damn it, we just lost the ship.
What we, Captain? It was your order.
You were standing right there.
You're the captain. I'm just following your order.
I will use one of those moments.
This may have just become another 3-parter.
I'm assuming I have a focus, xenobiology, sensor ops.
Yes, xenobiology.
I will re-roll that comp.
Alright, the 3 momentum.
Caleb, don't be alarmed. But 2 of the power cells has some of the microbes in them.
Which 2? You know what? You know what? Forget it. And he just sets all 6 of those that are on his back on the transporter and goes, get those back onto the Borg ship.
So yes, this is going to be another control plus engineering by the ship sensor plus engineering. Difficulty is 4. However, complication range is 3.
This will all end in tears.
At least she has that determination.
Yeah, I'm still debating on the reroll or not. I think the direction to go is to spend on the reroll.
Yeah.
We'll do the same roll we did last time. We're gonna spend 3 momentum.
1, 2, 3. I said 3. Thank
We
you.
don't even need the determination. Why? As long as I get my normal milestone, I don't care.
And I'm not gonna get a milestone this session.
God damn, Leva.
That's 3 momentum gained. 2 you rush out. Oh, where's my sound effect? There we go. And the power cells are back on the Borg Cube.
You wouldn't mind scanning again, would you?
I fully expect that they transfer from the power cells to the transporter pad, but I will.
That would be the most impressive discovery ever, though, because they're in an energized form. Like, they don't exist in a physical form when they're being transported.
Right, but he set them on the pad.
Oh! There's a solution to this. Y'all just have to, like,
Get the whole pad out.
No. You just leave the room with nothing but yourselves. You beam out of there, and then we shut down the power to the whole room.
That's exactly what I was just thinking. So literally, Caleb's gonna walk over to the console.
Well, first let's
gently
see if
nudge
there
Leva
is-
aside. Huh?
First, let me do the scan. If there's a scan to make.
There is. Same roll.
All right, I'll use one of the moments. See, here's the question. Do I just burn my determination for no reason?
Yes. That's not a meta decision at all. That's not something I would ever do.
We'll save it for now. I can't justify using it. I'll reroll.
You're back at cap.
I'll give out a big sigh of relief and I'm not seeing any microbes in here.
And at that, Caleb's gonna let out a sigh as well and go, "Oh, thank God." Well, actually, it's not thank God. It's, "Oh, thank the prophet."
And then I'll head to the bridge.
Welcome back aboard, Lieutenant.
Let's never speak of the Borg again.
Good to see that you haven't been assimilated, Lieutenant.
You and me both, Lieutenant. You and me.
I
Mm,
I kind of look around. It's not all bad being both mechanical and biological.
Yes, well, having your free will's rather nice, I think.
I'll tell you the next time I use it.
Likewise, sir.
Is Lieutenant Caleb all right?
He followed Vogel.
Oh, okay.
Not spending any extra time with Leva.
Lieutenant-
Gonna pay for that later.
Lieutenant, I think he's gonna pay for it whether he does it or not.
Is Vogel, like, did she have her tricorder visibly with her?
Probably.
Did you make sure to check your tricorder and your communicator for those things, Lieutenant Vogel?
I did a full scan when we beamed aboard. We did have a couple hitchhikers, but we were able to quickly bring them back to the Borg.
That's good. Don't suppose you beamed them to, I don't know, the center of the Borg ship or something? Wherever their power is?
Didn't really ask.
Fair enough. More important to keep the Tereshkova from being drained of power, I suppose.
Yeah, the Leva can be pretty quick on them transporters. You gotta be prepared with destinations, or she'll just send you anywhere. Lieutenant Vogel, can I get an ETA on when the organism will finish the Borg off? On a
I'll check their movement now.
I'll answer that with the momentum spin.
Sure.
Is it going to be something like 17 hours?
14 days. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Sir, it looks like the microbes have stopped.
They're no longer making any progress?
Correct, sir.
Are there still Borg life forms?
There are.
Does the ship have any power left?
Yes.
Is the entity drawing power from anywhere? Or can we see, has it been cut off from the power?
That's a momentum spend.
Hello?
Sir, it would appear that the Borg found a way to feed the microbes to keep them from completely overwhelming their
Borg
How-
adaptivity.
How are they managing that?
Possibly the same way we are able to, they only on a larger scale. They could have completely isolated all the infected areas and cut off power in all of them.
Can you confirm, Lieutenant?
what was that confirming?
The method the Borg used. The nurse suggested something, and I was just seeing if you could confirm how they did it.
It would appear Nurse Sullivan is exactly right.
I'm shocked it took them this long to figure this out. They're usually really smart. What if we were to find some way to force them to turn the power back on? Say, I don't know, and this is my non-computer expertise working, but hack the Borg Cube?
I don't think we have any idea how to do that.
Yeah, we ran into a problem earlier when trying to talk about possible computer infiltration. Could we, engineer, could you fabricate a bunch of small power cells that we could beam into or near the entity and then beam again all throughout the Borg controlled part of the ship?
I mean, it is possible to do so. I would just have to make sure that the biofilters don't pick up any of the microbes in their systems.
Are our shields still down?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other suggestions on actions to help them continue spreading?
Well, there is one option, but it's not a good one.
Let's hear it.
If we, well, put the Borg vessel in some distress, then we might be able to force them to reactivate systems in that affected part of the cube. That said, I'm not confident that, well, they'd need that other part of the cube to destroy us. I did say it was a bad option.
Let's hold off on that option. Are there any options that don't result in the destruction of the Tereshkova?
I wonder.
Sir, long-range sensors are picking up a transwarp conduit.
Oh, crap.
No.
That's not good, is it?
Nope, that means a Borg is on its way.
We need to get out of here.
Should we alert Starfleet about the incoming warp signature? we could have a full-on invasion on our hands at this rate.
Exo, send a signature. Tactical, start working on getting whatever torpedoes you can get ready. And engineering, get me max power. We're going to need to leave very quickly.
Yes, sir.
I understand. I would recommend withdrawing to extreme sensor range and observing, sir.
I don't want to be anywhere near them when another one drops out. I want to get some torpedoes to try to disrupt the Borg so the entity can consume what's left, and I want to leave.
Understood, sir. Caleb will just turn around to the back of the bridge, transfer engineering control to the bridge, and just give him all the power he's got.
And Ratal is immediately going to start just. I assume there's tubes for the torpedoes, right?
Yeah, you could probably fire. I was just worried about their shields. That's why I was suggesting transport. But if their shields are down, then we're going to hit pretty hard on our first round of torpedoes. Their 13 resistance is going to shrug it off, but we can still.
Yeah, Ratal will order the or Ratal will essentially just pack the torpedo, not pack the torpedo tubes, but make sure that each one of them has a, is loaded. Shields, sir.
I take a tenth of a second and I look at Joan waiting, and if Joan doesn't say anything, then I will.
We have to. Our only hope is that if we do raise shields and start loading torpedoes like we are, we have to hope they don't see us doing it, because they may see that as making aggressive action.
I expect them to see it as an aggressive action. That's where we're going to leave.
Sir?
If you suggest it, though, I'll leave without firing. I wanted to give this entity a chance, though.
I might suggest that we withdraw. That is the best course that doesn't involve us being attracting attention of this ship and whatever's incoming.
Belay that order, tactical.
Yes, sir.
Con maximum warp towards the incoming support vessels.
Disengaging torpedoes, sir. And Ratal will rescind the command.
Alright, I need someone to make a control plus con. It's difficulty 0. But I also need to know how much power you're putting into this.
Well, I have probably the best con here.
What's our max power?
15.
We do have Teeks, and Teeks has determination, but I don't think you spent your determination, so it's just.
It's a good thing you saved it.
I mean, I'll roll for it.
13 power, you think, Captain?
Everything we've got. So long as we don't. What you did? Everything we got, but keep a little in reserve so that we don't come out of warp dead in the water.
13, aye, sir.
What was the roll?
Control
con. Yeah, control plus con. Assisted by the ship's engines plus con. Difficulty 0.
Caleb,
I might just burn my determination, and a starship is an extension of my body.
real quick, Caleb, do you have that ability that lets you reduce the amount of power consumed when you take an action?
No, I do not.
Okay, never mind then.
On the plus side, we get to roll for each PowerPoint we spent, and we might get to keep it. A challenge die per point.
Oh, do we have a special thing?
Yep, improved warp drive.
So yeah, 13 challenge dice. See how many effects we get.
Well, we should probably hold off and let Vogel actually.
Yeah. But yay on the value.
comp value?
Starship is an extension of my body,
Yeah, that'd be fine.
just so I could use the thing.
I don't know.
only-
It sounds kind of irrelevant.
The only con value you would ever need.
So 6.
Okay, you gain 6 momentum and you're using 13 power.
You get to keep 4 of it.
Yep, you get to keep 4 of it.
Can we create an advantage? Can we use some momentum to create an advantage that Calum has used? Superior power transfer practices and reduce even further, like by, maybe a third or something, the other power we
No.
spent?
Doesn't, no.
Because it needs to be attached to the roll we just did.
Yep.
Can we create an advantage to mask our warp trail so we can't be followed?
Or at least not followed as easily.
Right.
I have never. Is that an episode of Always Sunny? I've never seen that episode. If it has.
Alright, so the Tereshkova goes to warp.
And Calum will look at you, Captain, and go, main power is down to 40%. It'll take some time to recharge.
Get working on it. Commander, open hailing with the lead ship on its way in.
Opening long range subspace now, sir.
USS Tereshkova.
So which lead ship?
The lead ship of the team that was coming to meet us. Or the one that we were rendezvousing with, I should say.
The one that was closest. We shouldn't say lead ship. We should say closest ship.
Yeah.
This is the Independence.
Independence, this is the Tereshkova. We have one partially disabled Borg Cube that is becoming mostly undisabled very shortly, and one potentially inbound other Borg craft coming in. Request a rendezvous so we can prepare a response.
We're still several hours out, Captain.
You're the only thing we've got.
Yep. We'll send you a set of coordinates where we can rendezvous that's slightly closer.
Is there an admiral on board your ship or any of the ships that you know of that are coming this way?
Currently, it's just me in charge, Captain.
Unless you protest, then I'm going to start coordinating the other ships that are inbound from the Tereshkova.
I've been receiving my orders from Admiral Nea, Captain.
Admiral Nea may be a little bit distant for what comes next. We'll coordinate with her. But in this local area, we might need a more organized command structure.
Okay. So while you're doing that on your view screen, you see a Borg sphere, as you're pulling away, slowly start approaching the Borg Cube.
Reinforcements.
If all goes well, it might backfire. Probably not.
They've already adapted. They won't fall for the same fate again.
A woman can dream, sir.
Well, on the plus side, sir, it's not 2 cubes.
It's still
On the plus side, it's not 3 either. I
See?
failed.
Silver landing.
On the plus side, we haven't been assimilated yet.
Long range sensors are picking up a power buildup on the cube.
They're scuttling their ship. They contained it, but they don't think they can move it.
Good thing you advised me not to waste the torpedoes.
I would have liked the chance, but it would have been a waste, wouldn't it?
Something about tactical officers and wanting to paint Borg cubes on the side of the ship. And
It would be an impressive kill, sir, to be fair.
not
So
exactly the way we go about things here, Lieutenant.
Sphere moves closer into position around the cube, and then all of a sudden you see a transwarp conduit build up, and it enters the conduit, followed by a very large, as the cube self-destructs.
Oh, thank God.
My apologies, sir. Joke in poor taste.
Do we still have the Independence on the line?
I mean, you can hail them again.
Okay, I was asking. No, I was asking if we actually still had them in communication.
Well, we'd have to hail them again, but I'll bring
Okay.
them up again, sir.
I didn't want to.
Oh, sorry.
Send a message to the Independents. Tell them we're still going to meet at the rendezvous. That way we can, make sure the area is safe and go in and do some scans. But let's communicate with Admiral Ney and the rest of the ships so that they can stand down and return to normal duty. And put in a request for Admiral Ney to have the Independents join us.
Aye, sir. Putting it through now.
Helm, maintain course but reduce speed to cruising speed.
Aye, Captain.
Sir, may I request to continue my work in the wardroom? I need a moment while I work.
You're free.
Thank you, sir. He kind of stands up and tugs on his uniform a little bit and then kind of walks out with a steady stride.
Yeah. Kind of free roleplay for you guys.
Karen just sort of sits down in basically the closest chair she can sit in, no matter the station, and gives out what might possibly be the heaviest sigh of relief ever heard in the history of the Federation.
Is that the ex-host? I think that's the ex-host chair.
And she gets up kind of slowly. Sorry, sir.
I think
been a long past few weeks. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part of your ship, and I think I'm going to enjoy the rest of my time here.
You get a kind of a concerned look.
Oh.
That's good, nurse. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself.
Don't know what there is to enjoy about a Borg Cube.
Also,
Enjoy
for context, your character, you'll remember that you've been on the ship for like weeks or like a month or so now or whatever. So while this is your first game playing, the captain is like, it's kind of weird because you've been here for a while.
That's true, but she hasn't really been this involved with the crew yet, I can assume.
Yeah.
She's mostly been doing beta shift background duties.
Well, if you feel up to it, you can always apply to Alpha Shift through the XO. There might be more excitement to be had in the main shift.
Excitement's not the best word.
Advancement?
No, just sort of looking to get to know everyone, you know? I've been here a few weeks, but it's been mostly paperwork, mostly flying, mostly figuring things out where I am. You might do. Thank you for the suggestion of joining Alpha Shift. I'll definitely take up our XO on that. Is there anything I can help with up here, sir?
If Vogel doesn't need your help on anything, then you may return to Med.
Aye, sir. Vogel?
I think we're set here.
She gives another sigh of relief and steps into the turbo lift. And as the turbo lift doors close, she gives a big thumbs up.
Ritala sort of, as she's, sorry, you're echoing again.
Sorry.
That's fine. As she sees this, just kind of quirks a brow at the turbo lift, not that she's like put off by it, but just confused.
Having Ritala brought back to the front of my mind, I tap my the comm on the panel on the Lieutenant or Ensign talk to the bridge, and I close out the channel. Ritala, you better go with the nurse. I think you have overstayed the limits that were put on you.
Very well, sir. Well, it's been good to be back on duty for a little while at least. Ritala pushes herself up from her seat without protest and just heads towards the turbo lift and pops in. And then she'll head down to medbay. Or medical.
From the back of the bridge, Captain, you'll hear, kind of under his breath, but you'll hear Calum go, I had hoped I never had to deal with those things.
You'll have to tell me what the last encounter was like, Lieutenant. I hesitated to read too much over the logs of the Sarek and its previous engagements because I have a pretty low opinion of some of the higher ranking officers that were in charge of it. But I am still fascinated to hear about your encounter.
Aye, sir. I'll have to...
I point towards the Exo's chair. I still got a couple of hours left on Alpha Shift.
Sure thing, sir. We can talk about it, I guess. At the time, I was the beta shift con on board the ship. Good friend of mine was in charge.
In charge of what?
In charge of helm operation.
You cut out there a little bit.
In charge of helm operations.
Okay. Oh, you weren't Chief Con Officer. There was another... I can't hear you
Not
anymore.
at the time, I wasn't.
But you were still selected to go on this away mission?
That's weird. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. So, was it... This is out of character. Was it actually... not the other one. Michelson. Was it Michelson that went on?
It was cute. Basically, retroactively, I'm saying Calum was there too, as someone along the side that we didn't focus. Because after I said it was Calum, I remembered. Oh wait, no.
I think we can accept that. Well, how was your first time on a Borg Cube?
You, sir?
I don't think we got any of that.
Oh, do you wish me to continue, sir? That better?
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay. What was the last thing you heard?
I asked you what it was like on the Borg Cube, and you said something like, "Did you want me to continue, sir?"
Oh, my bad. I had lost you. My bad. Basically, sir, I forget the name of the ship that we were sent to rescue out of character. But
Miramar.
The Miramar, yes, thank you. The Miramar at the time had been destroyed, cut up into pieces, all of its crew taken for assimilation by the Borg. We didn't have much time. We managed to rescue the ship's command staff, but that was about it. All other hands of the Miramar were lost.
How many people were lost in total?
About all the humanoid life forms that were on board the Borg vessel, I think at the time totaled approximately 6,000.
And you saved 10 or
5.
15 of them? You saved
Yes.
5 of them.
We saved 5.
You know, for someone who was at one time somewhat known as a competent officer. I don't hear a lot about your former captain succeeding. That doesn't seem like that seems like a failure to me.
He was faced with a terrible option, sir. The Borg were assimilating our people so fast, we were trying to find the Miramar crew. By the time we found them, all that was left was the command staff. There was other humanoid life forms there, but at the time, according to the captain, they weren't our priority. Our priority was the Starfleet officers, which I believe at the time on board the vessel totaled about 250.
And the Miramar probably would have had like closer to 500 crew.
Okay, but by the time we got, I was accounting for the time before we got there, but okay. But yes, sir, we basically saved 1% of their Miramar crew, which included, at the time, my commander's fiancée, who I'd rather not go into detail about, the doctor's wife, and a couple others.
Let me get this straight. The senior officers aboard your ship encountered a vessel that was actively killing or transforming innocent civilians and members of Starfleet.
Yes, sir.
And instead of saving any of the civilians who had not ever taken an oath, they saved the few family members they had amongst the condemned who had taken oaths of self-sacrifice.
We were trying to save the entire Starfleet crew of the Miramar. By the time we got there, the senior staff were the only ones left.
I hope you didn't take too much of a lesson from them. Civilians should be the priority in that case, not the Starfleet officers.
I live by
Alright, I'm
one
back.
code. I live by one code, sir. And it's something that was ingrained in me since the Resistance.
As long as it wasn't ingrained to you by anyone who is ever in charge of the Sarek. It seems like it's probably an acceptable code.
This one was by my commanding officer in the Resistance. And it was never leave a fellow officer behind.
I stand corrected. It might not be that great of a code. Civilians take priority over people who've taken oaths of self-sacrifice. You've taken an oath, and I wouldn't hesitate for a second to trade a civilian's life for yours. That's part of service.
I mean, you could have phrased that a bit better than "I will gladly throw away your life," but
I said it as exactly as he meant it.
Sir,
I didn't say I'd kill him I didn't say I'd actively kill him, but I did mean it the way I said it.
Okay, well, Caleb's gonna look at you and go, well, sir, there was one time, while I was on board the Sarek, where I was willing to sacrifice myself for the good of the Federation, but the captain wouldn't allow it.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
And needless to say, I can't go into any more detail about that incident, as the entire incident was classified.
From a massive failure, I assume. Although you couldn't have confirmed.
You're
That's
correct,
all right.
sir. I couldn't confirm it, but Lord knows what'll happen, as the humans would say. It wasn't? Okay, I thought it was. My bad.
Your character may think it was and just not be aware. You can stand by what you said if you want to.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's a junior officer. Who knows what those brass guys are all doing anyway?
Yeah, he might have not have kept track of what was about all of that.
Any other roleplay anyone would like to do?
Rentala was sent down to sickbay, right?
Oh, never mind.
Do you want to do something like that, or do you want to save it for next week?
I mean, yeah, there's that, I guess, but then I also... Ritala wanted to meet with the captain later, but I don't know if we'll have time for that.
I mean, we can, but if you wanted to do something with the nurse, that would get more you and them involved. And I've already kind of done some stuff with Kayla. Just trying to keep everyone getting to do
Yeah,
stuff.
I guess I'm just not too... Well, with the nurse, I guess there's the exam, but, she doesn't have too much to talk about, I guess. I don't know.
Try
No
it
confidence
out.
in that bedside manner, eh? Jeez.
Try it out and see what happens.
All right. Has the nurse been appraised of the situation with Ritala? I guess would be the question.
I don't think she's... What do you mean, appraise the situation?
Like the
So
reason
Ritala, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So Ritala had a nasty back injury and had to undergo surgery. Currently, it's been repaired. However, she's supposed to take it easy, as the nerves are pretty much settling into place in a way.
And she's doing a bad job of taking it easy.
Sullivan would probably be informed of that, yeah. I don't think she's gotten a real chance to do it, but if an exam has to come up, an exam has to come up.
Sorry, just eating. One moment. Sorry. I guess Ritala will head into sickbay then. Probably over. Make her way over. Ah, nurse, I'm glad I caught you.
I am too. You seem to be overdue on that back surgery update. And
I know.
based on everything I've told, your aftercare for it has been minimal. And she kind of gives a handshake of like an eh.
I know. I've been, doing my duties a little bit more than I'm supposed to, I suppose. As Ritala says that, she seems to cringe almost a little bit, as if she clearly doesn't like.
Sullivan just sort of goes back to that, takes out like the small hammer that you use on the knee to test reflex, and she goes, "Hey, nothing wrong with with wanting to do what you're on a ship to do. Ever since I joined Starfleet, I've been mostly surrounded by caring, passionate people, and I know most of them would be devastated if they were told they couldn't do their jobs. Heck, I would be too. There have been a few situations where I've been actively hampered by regulations from doing things, you know? Could you sit on one of the beds? Put your knees towards me."
Yeah, of course. And Ratal will sit down with a bit of a sigh and brace herself against the medical bed. Excuse me.
Uh, Karen does the quick little tap with the hammer on the knee, and she goes, "I'm pretty sure your nervous system works like most bipeds, so this."
Yeah, and her leg kicks just fine, I think. Maybe a little bit slow, but, you know, probably to be expected considering what happened to her back.
Reflexes looking out fine for the most part. She goes over to a replicator and replicates a rubber ball, and then quickly tosses it towards Rentala.
Ratala, but would I need to roll to catch that?
Free roleplay. Don't worry about
It's
it.
free roleplay.
Alright. Yeah, she shoots up to catch it, maybe maybe a little bit faster than expected, almost, considering her back injury. Like, she's clearly got very good reflexes. But, you know, yeah.
Karen gives like a whistle and goes, "Okay, that seems to be upper and lower body. Checking out pretty all right."
It's the Romulan training, I think.
Really notice that you mentioned the word Romulan. She goes, "Can you wiggle your fingers a lot? See, you know, like you're playing piano or whatever you have on Romulus that can be considered a piano."
And we've got some close things, and she does that. Wiggles her fingers just fine. You didn't know that I was Romulan, did you?
I mean, most Vulcans I know don't have the big V thing on their head. How'd you guys develop that anyway? The records that we have after after y'all revealed your face for the first time show that you were pretty flat. Is this a Klingon thing?
Oh god, no. Tala seems to almost not recoil, but she sort of, her head dips back a little bit and she just lets out this very loud, extremely unladylike snort. Almost sounds like a hog. Like, it's very, very obvious. No, trust me, if I had been part Klingon, the Tal Shiar would have, I don't know, burned me alive or something, I think.
That stops Karen in her tracks, and she looks up from the pad she's filling out, and she goes, "They do that on Romulus?"
No, just an exaggeration, but they do hate Klingons a lot. More than likely, they just drag me off into a back alley and nobody would see me again.
I'm sorry. I mean, I know you're not part Klingon, but it must have been stressful growing up in an environment like that.
It was. It's the reason I'm here, actually. My parents fell in with the dissident movements, and, well, I could have stayed, but Rotala laughs, but it's more of a, how do I put it? It's less that she thinks something's funny and more of a, oh god, what situation have I put myself in sort of laugh. Well, there's this girl I was close with, very close with, and I had essentially the choice of, well, do I want to stay here and possibly get her killed, or leave Romulus forever and hope that the Tal Shiar stays off her back? And so, well, now I'm here.
That story seems to have clicked with Karen just a bit more than you thought it would, and she goes, I'm so sorry, I can't imagine leaving someone like that.
It,
You know
it
what?
wasn't easy.
You know what? One of my mentors on Starbase 2 once told me that a good doctor is also a bartender. If you want to meet up, if you want to talk about this or anything else after we're off duty, and you want to meet at, what's the bar on the ship called? Like
Section 31.
That's a bold name.
Was that a different ship, or was that this ship?
The different ship.
Oh, okay,
was
that was the
Imjin.
Timjin. Not the
That was
Imjin, the
the
Timjin, wasn't?
Oh, the Timjin?
Was it the Imjin?
Maybe that was the Timjin.
I think it was the Timjin. Can it be Section 31 though?
But it's 10 forward technically because it's the
Okay.
same layout design as
Yeah,
Enterprise.
the only reason that one was Section 31 is because we bullshitted that there was a Section 31 on the ship, so that's not possible, I guess. So yeah, it would have to be 10 forward. That doesn't make me any less disappointed, though.
if you want, I gladly meet you out at 10 forward. Let me know if you want anything. You have the comms if you need me. And then she stands up and goes, and that should be your exam done. Reflexes on the upper body are pretty dang good, but I'd recommend watching yourself in terms of lower body. You were about as slow as expected, which is still pretty dang fast.
Well, I'll be sure to keep that in mind. Might have to take you up on that offer of a drink, though. Frankly, after what's happened over the past few days, I could probably use a glass of Romulan ale. I don't really drink at all, really, but.
And she says, as if she didn't really know if that was she didn't even realize that was sarcasm or anything like that. She goes, "Is that still illegal?"
No, actually, it's after the or they lifted the embargo. It's still not a good thing to drink, except in very extreme moderation, but it's legal.
That's something to keep in mind. And then
Careful with the stuff. Very careful.
Of course. God. Back where I came from, I was before I joined up with Starfleet, I was well known as kind of a lightweight, so the worst I had was one of those hard lemonades, and that knocked me out for the rest of the evening. You've had lemonade, right?
Lemonade? Oh, yes, I'm, well, it might sound a bit strange, but I've actually become quite fascinated with Earth culture, in particular the 1980s. I took up guitar, actually, because of it.
Oh, hey, yeah, one of my brothers was actually thinking of starting one of those, like, one of those very old bands, you know, Ken Shar and the Vulcan Dragons. You might have heard of them?
I tends to stay away from Vulcan things.
They're not actually Vulcan, they're Andorian, weirdly enough. I think he just picked out the name for some exoticism. This was back in the, I think, 2100s?
Oh, strange pick, I suppose. I don't know. Vulcans can make good music, but it's always been too... Well, I don't know. I like things that are loud. You know?
I can get that. I can get with that, but I just have some sensory issues sometimes that I have to take care of when it comes to music.
Oh, like what?
And she realizes that she's kind of revealing a bit much. There's a brain thing I have that leads to some sensory problems. I was actually unable to wear a uniform for a while until they managed to figure out a pattern that worked with it, because otherwise I was just too on edge from the material used.
No, that must have been tough. Well, if it's any consolation, I almost lost the use of my legs recently, so we can suffer together.
Karen holds out her fist, and she goes, "You bump it with your fist."
Ratala nods and gives her a fist bump.
All right, yeah, I gotta get with the rest. I gotta do some other exams, but take care with the rest of your off-duty.
Yeah, I might see if I can find somewhere to rest.
Hopefully your bunk is a good place to do that.
It is, but I don't know. Might start up a holodeck program. Something to remind me of home.
And I think I'll end the scene there. Is that okay? Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, yeah, Ratala will head off after that.
Karen just sort of gives a little fist pump to herself and the fact that she managed to make what can be closely considered a new acquaintance to talk with.
Okay. With that, I think we'll call this session to a close.
I think
And resistance is futile.